Today's masterclass is by a very special guest, and that special guest, of course, no surprises now, is Mr. Shantanu Saha. Mr. Shantanu Saha, very I'll give an introduction about him. He's the founder and CEO of the Recruiters, and he's an ex-HR head and also an author, a prolific author. So Mr. Shantanu Saha holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Delhi University and has done his master's in business administration from Ford School of Management, Delhi. After passing out from Ford in 1995, he joined through campus as a management trainee in ABB, which is a Swedish electrical engineering MNC. In ABB, he handled challenging assignments in industrial relations and HR in their Kolkata and Faridabad factories before becoming their youngest head on the HR, youngest head as a human resource at the age of 25 years for an ABB joint venture company with the MP Birla Group in Madhya Pradesh, with the sole responsibility of establishing the HR function ground up. After completing 5 years in ABB, he moved to Oberoi Hotels to head their HR division for a unit which had a challenging IR situation. Post his stint there, he joined Daksh, which is now part of IBM. He was a part of the startup team at Daksh, where he was instrumental in hiring 1,500 plus employees in a span of just over 6 months, for which he was awarded with the Daksh Leadership Award in the year 2021, sorry, in the year 2001. So sorry for that. He later went on to head HR for one of the business units at Daksh with a passion to repeat what was done in Daksh. Shantanu joined Global Vantage, a Chris Capital funded startup later acquired by the AG's group, and led its startup as HR team as their AVP in HR. He was instrumental in setting up the HR systems and processes and hiring the HR systems, hiring around 1,500 plus employees here as well. So in his last corporate assignment, Shantanu was the VP HR of International Corrections BPO funded by West Bridge Capital in Gurgaon. Yep, after completing all his successful corporate stint, he's now founded the Recruiters, which is an executive search, HR consulting and advisory firm based in Gurgaon. His effort as the founder and CEO is to maintain and improve constantly the processes, the quality of work done, and grow the business. And he's not just in Gurgaon, he's set up his branches of firm in Bangalore and Bombay as well. And he's also a very prolific speaker in many public forums and has participated in panel discussions on various topics related to management, entrepreneurship, infrastructure. He's also a guest judge for admissions in prominent management institutions in Delhi and also a jury in IMA's national level management. And yes, as I said, he's an author. So he's authored a book called The Fight for Life, which is available on Amazon globally. And yep, he's an advisor and mentor with multiple angel networks and helps startups as their CHRO and also in their fundraising. So yep, his interest includes in fact, all of that. He's found various interests in life, other interests in life to pursue as well, which includes photography, fitness, traveling, reading, networking, of course, and yeah, public speaking. So without further ado, Mr. Shantanu, I'd love to invite you to the center stage. We're all delighted to have you and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Can I share my screen now?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay. Okay. I'm audible and I hope the screen is visible to everyone. Yeah?
Yes, Shantanu, yes, you are audible.
Just a second. Just moving up. Okay. So today I'll just set a timer so that I'm on time. Okay. So today what I'm going to cover is I'm going to talk about human resource for startups, and not just from the startup founders point of view, but also from the point of view of all of you investors. So whenever you have a founders call whenever you're investing in a startup, I think these are some of the things that you can keep in mind. So let me jump right into this. So first thing that we look at a startup is we look at their business plan, which is typically a financial business plan. What I wanted to draw upon is that whenever you see a business plan, a startup founder should also make an HR business plan linked to this business plan. So, for example, if you have a revenue projection in the main business plan, which says that, okay, on a particular date, I will have an X amount of revenue, then they should also decide that how much of manpower would be required to achieve that X revenue. And that manpower, you will have to assume that, okay, is working the legal number of hours that is allowed, and to be able to achieve that at a certain productivity level. Going back on that, you have to also decide that, okay, fine, if this is the manpower, if I get them from the market, how much is the lead time that I need to have to get them, on roles to be productive? And if there is a training that is required, then how much of training time, whether it's going to be 4 weeks, 6 weeks before they reach a certain level of productivity. Apart from that, you also need to factor in compliance costs. So these are some things which can go into an HR business plan. So whenever you speak to a founder, you just make sure that these things are there. Uh, Come to the next thing. Just a second. Yeah. The founders also have to make sure that they are building a great team. So that is something a human resource, again, can make and break a company. And this is something that a lot of founders, because they are busy with fundraising, they're busy executing the idea, they forget about the people who, tend to actually give shape to their dreams. So it is very essential that the founders take out time to actually spend within the hiring process so that they can share their vision. Um, and this is possible for, say, the first 100, 200 employees. Beyond that, it is probably not really feasible, although, some of the largest of, you can say, corporate honchos do take out time to, be present in some of these interviews. In fact, they take most of the final rounds, even in pretty large organizations. But if you can't do that, then you delegate it to someone who is, one of your best people out there, because what interviewers tend to do is they hire clones of themselves. So just make sure that you put your best people out there to hire. Apart from that, it is, a lot of founders don't realize, but the entire hiring process is actually a brand building exercise. So every touch point that comes in place, whether it is your recruitment vendor who's talking to the candidate, whether it is the advertising pitch which goes on LinkedIn or on any of the social media, or actually as a, paid advertisement, they all give an impression. Just like you have non-verbal communication when you judge somebody, these all written communication that goes out, or spoken communication through these people, or when a candidate, say, example, comes to your premises to give the interview, these are going to be, you can say, brand ambassadors of your company. So that impression, if you can create a good impression, that is something which will really help a company grow, because then they will not find it difficult to attract good talent. And what is most important is that one has to spend enough time to decide and, give thoughts to the HR processes that need to be set up. So one thing which a founder needs to spend time on is culture building. If they don't spend time on it, what will happen is, the people who come from various backgrounds, various companies, and the culture will automatically get created. So you have an option either to shape it yourself, or you can let it form on its own. So, and this is something, I'll give you an example. Suppose you are a customer focused organization which is dealing with, you are, say, in customer service. Then what you might want people who are, down to earth, humble, have listening skills and things like that. You could, on the other hand, have an organization which needs to be very aggressive. In that case, you will need those kind of people to be in part of your team. So when you start judging candidates, say, for technical skills, you also have certain soft skills on which you can judge them. You can also have certain values of your organization which reflect the culture. And of course, the founders have to, sort of, you can say, live that culture to be able to drive that. Coming to the compensation philosophy, this is something which you have to set in place right in the beginning. You cannot, randomly start giving compensation to different people based on whatever, different people come from. So you have to think through a philosophy. The first thing that will guide your philosophy is the affordability that you have. You could be a bootstrap company, or you could be funded, but all said and done, you have to decide where you want to, peg yourself vis-a-vis competition in the same industry, vis-a-vis competition from where you're probably getting your talent pool. So you could peg yourself, say, on the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 60th percentile. It really depends. You want to be on the top of the market or bottom of the market. Uh, Wherever you are, you will have to still attract talent. So which means that will take us to the next thing of a salary mix. So how much is the fixed salary that you want to give? What is the variable? What is the incentive? What are the rewards and recognitions and benefits that you give? It's possible that you may not be able to afford, or may not be as a policy giving large fixed compensations, but you could always have a culture which is something where people just love to work. So so there could be rewards and recognitions, there could be a lot of team building exercise. For example, I was in Daksh. The salaries that Daksh used to offer was not great. We used to in fact try and get people from other companies at the same level as far as possible, but Daksh had this thing of really spending a lot of money on its employees in other areas. For example, we had snacks with it, with tea, which used to happen. We had elaborate lunches and dinners. We always had one party budget for every team every month. So every team leader had a certain party budget. So when we had a crowd which was in the 25 to 27 age group, that was something which was really good and retaining people. In fact, Daksh is one company where I remember I hired a huge number of people, and today, 20 years later, many of them are still working there. So which is a pretty unbelievable thing as far as today's environment goes. Coming to performance management, it is very essential. Again, something which a lot of people don't realize, that you, if possible, create a system where you can link it to the return on investment of the person. So, which means, and especially this is valid in COVID times where a lot of people do work from home, that try and create matrices for every staff function and line function. And these matrices should be transparent. They should be such that people themselves can calculate what their performance is. And this is something which should be directly linked to the return on investment. Now, nobody, let me tell you, 90% or 95% of the people do not want to be a burden on the company. They would want to do well in terms of give a return to the company. And if they start seeing that, oh my God, my performance is falling below, they will put in their own efforts. Plus, if it is, everybody is transparent and it's visible out there that this is the ROI of each person, then this is something where there'll be a competitive, this thing where, okay, my ROI is this, and which in turn will help the company. Coming to statutory compliances, a lot of founders that we talk with, and we work with a lot of startups, tend to be very ignorant about basic laws of the land. So I had a startup which was telling me that we are known for stretching, so people will work 10 hours and or 12 hours. See, it's good if somebody works long hours on their own discretion. Don't make that an assumption. And if you make that an assumption and you say that, okay, this is a startup, it's going to be stretched, you will create a toxic work culture. When you start, you can say, when I said HR business plan, you factor in what is the number of hours that is allowed legally. And then if somebody gives you more, then that's discretionary. If they are happy with the environment, people will go out of their way to help you. But do not take that as a given, because they are not founders of the company. So do not expect that. Then something like Posh. A lot of people don't know that if an organization has 10 employees, and if even all of them are men, you still need to have a Posh committee. You still need to file your Posh returns. So those are basic things which a founder needs to be aware of. And probably when you start interacting with these founders as investors, you should also question them. And last, of course, it is very essential that you create systems and processes in place. And initially, of course, the founders can both have probably coffee with every employee or something of that sort, where you informally address any issues promptly. If you don't have an HR, fine, but make sure that problems get arrested at the initial stage rather than them sort of, because one unhappy employee will probably cause dissatisfaction with 10 more. So to have happy and productive employees, it is very essential that you have a mechanism where either they can reach out to you informally at any point in time. It's an open door policy and things like that, or you have probably town halls, or you have skip level meetings, but that will make sure that your productivity doesn't get hampered. So all these factors are something.
So yeah, we can say that it is that this makes.
So after this, I'm happy to take questions. So these are my coordinates. If anybody has questions, they can either put it in chat, or I can take it here.
To deal with separation process, you have hired thousands of people. How many you have let them go? How to deal with that situation?
So separation is a part and parcel. I have done it a lot in my career in HR. So what one has to convey to them is, of course, if you have a notice period and things like that, that's fine. But you have to tell them that, see, and that is where the matrices come in play. So if they see consecutively, suppose their performance is below par, and you tell them that, see, you might be a great guy, but this is probably the wrong option. So nobody wants that their career goes in a path which is not going to be helpful to them. You can do separation. In fact, I once met a guy, I told him, you're a great guy, probably this is just not the right area for you. And he was like that, this is the first time that somebody's asking me to go, but I'm so happy with, it's like a counseling exercise. So you can deal with separation. Of course, there could be other reasons for discipline and things like that, but you should have policies for that. So if you have a corrective action policy, you give them a reason, or you give them a notice in terms of that they improve their performance and still it doesn't happen, or improve their behavior, then of course you have to let go. So if you have policies, these things are never an issue.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So, whatever you've spoken about is considering that, these were the applicable when it was the perfect time. But right now, considering the pandemic situation and people operating at 30% or 50% attendance every day, or, some people have not even started going to office. So, how does the attendance policy get affected during these times? And how are people handling that?
So that is where it is very essential that you completely start judging, and if you have matrices, you start judging people on output and not the number of hours that they are putting in. And the companies which tended to do that watch by the clock, that okay, 9 o'clock punch in. So for example, my own firm, we used to have a biometric in all the branches that we were in. We stopped doing that. We said, okay, an activity report which tells us what they did, what was the meaningful outcome of the day. And we have a lot of places where that is mentioned in terms that, okay, this is the activities that were performed and this is what happened. And at the end of the day, in my organization, I've implemented almost everything that I talked about. So from the ROI, so the ROI actually goes in the payslip. So if all that is happening, then I really don't care whether they are doing half day work. Because you have people who are very productive. Somebody can finish 2 hours work, the same another person will do 8 hours to do that. And I'm okay if the person does it in 2 hours and whatever is given to them. At the end of the day, if you treat them like that, I have seen. In fact, I spend less hours. I always keep telling me I don't have time. I'm doing something else. I spend a lot of time in IMA's activities and investor classes and things like that. I actually my people keep telling me we need more time from you, kind of a thing.
No, I understand, but I come from design background and I run a design agency. So for us, it becomes more difficult because we spend a lot of time researching or brainstorming, and that's not something that is counted, really counted or measured. The performance matrix completely changes in a design company. So
But I'm sure for everything, I mean, I have actually, if you brainstorm again, there will be something which you want. What is the outcome from that? Is it ideas? Is it the number of thoughts that come into it? If it's a brainstorming, whatever, you can put that and quantify it, saying, okay, this person gave this many ideas. There's a contribution. Whatever is the contribution, you can measure it.
I'll maybe connect with you again on your number, and we can discuss it in more detail and not hog the entire space. Thank you.
No.
Great. No, so I think Shantanu sir, we'll connect with you offline for more of this. Just so for the paucity of time, I'll have to intervene and cut this in between.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you so much for that very insightful session, and it's very insightful and also very practical at this point of time. In fact, all these things that you were talking about, some of them actively become a part of the term sheets nowadays, and also SHA's agreement. So thank you so much for discussing that. So I'll move to the session, sir, and thank you again. So Karan, if you can load up the great. So I think we have Konark and Sneh on the call from Freestand. So now we